What if the gold the alchemists sought was never the metal in the earth, but the brilliance hidden in you? Imagine a candle in a sealed room. The flame is small, yet its light suggests a sun. The philosopher's stone is that impossible sun, an agent said to purify any impurity, heal any wound, and turn base matter into the noblest substance. But step closer, and the rumor changes. The base matter looks less like lead, more like fear, resentment, confusion. The gold looks less like coins, more like clarity, courage, and an incorruptible peace that nothing can purchase and nothing can steal. For centuries, seekers bent over furnaces, glass retorts blooming with strange colors, watching vapors rise and fall, dissolve and reform. Their notebooks are stained with smoke and symbol, dragons biting their tails, kings being dissolved in baths of stars. Behind the arcane language, it is a precise psychology of transformation. How to break apart what is false, rejoin what is true, and crystallize a self that cannot be divided. The stone was their name for the completed work, the lapis that ends the search. In this journey, we will read the old maps without getting lost in their fog. First, we will slip behind the curtains of history, hermetic aphorisms, medieval laboratories, and the surprising obsession of figures like Isaac Newton, to see why the stone captured the West's most restless minds. Then we will decode its inner architecture, the triad of salt, sulfur, and mercury as body, soul, and spirit, the axiom solve et coagula, dissolve and recombine, as a method for renewing life, the dark night of Negredo, the whitening of albedo, the reddening of rubedo. Finally, we will bring the furnace home. You will learn how attention becomes fire, how breath becomes bellows, how honest reflection becomes the vessel where impurities separate and essence condenses. If you have ever felt that your life contains more ore than treasure, stay. The stone is not an object to own. It is a process to embody. Tonight, we begin the work. When you are ready to proceed, I'll open the door to the historical and philosophical foundations that make the stone more than legend and far more than chemistry. The legend of the philosopher's stone did not spring from a single mind or a single century. It is a tapestry woven from threads of Egypt's temple schools, the mystery cults of Greece, the hermetic treatises of Alexandria, and the restless laboratories of medieval Europe. Each culture, each era, added its own symbols, its own layers of meaning, as if a hidden hand was guiding humanity toward a singular understanding of transformation. The oldest whispers of the stone echo from ancient Egypt, where priests spoke of Mut, cosmic truth and balance, and preserved a science of harmony between body, mind, and spirit. These ideas flowed into Greece through the myth of the Chrysopoeia, the making of gold, and through the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, a figure both god and sage, whose emerald tablet declared, "That which is below is like that which is above," to accomplish the miracles of the one thing. Many believe this one thing is the very essence the philosopher's stone represents. In the city of Alexandria, cradle of synthesis between Greek reason, Egyptian magic, and Jewish mysticism, alchemists began recording experiments that blurred the boundary between outer matter and inner spirit. To them, metals in the earth were not inert. They were alive, evolving toward perfection. Lead was not less than gold. It was simply younger, waiting for the right conditions to reach its noble state. And if metals could evolve, so could man. Fast forward to the Islamic Golden Age, and we find the meticulous works of Jabir ibn Hayyan, Geber to the Latin West, who encoded complex chemical recipes alongside allegories of death, resurrection, and purification. His writings traveled into Europe through Moorish Spain, mingling with Christian mysticism and the ascetic discipline of monastic scriptoria. By the High Middle Ages, alchemy was both a craft and a spiritual path, pursued by men and women who believed that perfecting matter was inseparable from perfecting the self. It was here that the symbolism deepened. Salt, sulfur, and mercury were not only chemical substances, they became archetypes. Salt as the fixed body, sulfur as the fiery soul, mercury as the fluid spirit. The stages of the great work, nigredo, blackening, albedo, whitening, and rubedo, reddening, were both laboratory processes and inner initiations, each demanding a death of the old and a birth of the new. Even the giants of science could not resist. Isaac Newton, often celebrated as the father of modern physics, devoted more time to alchemical studies than to optics or gravitation. In his private notes, kept secret for fear of ridicule, he pored over translations of the Tabula Smaragdina, scribbled chemical formulas alongside biblical prophecy, and sought in crucibles the same divine order he saw in the stars. To Newton, the philosopher's stone was not superstition. It was the hidden architecture of reality itself. Across centuries, one theme persists. The stone is not merely a tool for wealth, but a mirror. It reflects the alchemist's own condition. If you are fractured, the stone will show you your fractures. If you are whole, it will reveal the gold already within. The laboratories, the furnaces, the coded manuscripts, all were props in a deeper drama. The quest to turn the leaden chaos of the human heart into the radiant gold of awakened spirit. Next, we will step into the heart of that drama, dismantling the coded language of the alchemists and uncovering what the stone truly is, beginning with the first half of its core explanation. To understand the real meaning of the philosopher's stone, we must first dissolve the picture most people hold in their minds, an enchanted rock that magically turns anything it touches into gold. That is the children's tale, the bait. The truth is both more demanding and infinitely more rewarding. The stone is not an object, it is a state. It is the culmination of a process that the alchemists called the great work, magnum opus. This process mirrors the very cycles of nature, decay, purification, transformation, and perfection, just as a seed rots before sprouting, or as ore must be smelted before it becomes metal. The human being must undergo inner disintegration before they can embody their highest form. In the language of alchemy, the journey begins with nigredo, the blackening. This is the stage of breaking down. Old beliefs, false identities, and emotional stagnation are exposed and dissolved. It is an uncomfortable stage, for it feels like everything familiar is burning away. The alchemists compared it to putrefaction, the death of what is no longer living in you. This is not punishment, it is preparation. Without nigredo, nothing new can take root. From the ashes of this blackening comes albedo, the whitening. Here, clarity emerges, the inner waters are purified, the soul becomes more reflective, like a still pond catching the light of the moon. It is the stage of self-honesty and discernment. Many mistake this for the final goal. After all, the peace and lightness of albedo feel liberating. But in truth, it is only the clearing of the canvas. The next step is citrinitas, the yellowing, which some traditions omit, but which holds deep importance. It is the dawning of inner illumination, the first rays of the sun entering the whitened landscape of the self. Insight begins to ripen into wisdom, and a new vitality infuses the spirit. And finally comes rubedo, the reddening. This is the stage of full integration where spirit and matter, inner and outer, above and below, unite. In rubedo, the alchemist does not merely contemplate truth, they embody it. Life itself becomes the medium through which their transformed essence expresses. This is the point where lead has been made gold, where what was fragmented is now whole and indestructible. In these stages, the stone is not a thing in your hand. It is you, reborn. The alchemists used the metaphor of gold not because they lusted for wealth, but because gold is incorruptible. It does not tarnish, rust, or decay. To become like gold is to be steadfast in integrity, luminous in presence, and immune to the corruption of fear and falsehood. This is why the stone has also been called the elixir of life, not because it grants eternal youth in the body, but because it awakens an eternal quality of consciousness. To touch the stone is to realize that the true treasure was never outside you. It was the divine potential within, waiting to be brought into form. Yet, this is only half the picture. The stone's meaning becomes even more profound when we examine the mechanics of its transformation. How exactly the alchemists believed raw, chaotic existence could be refined into pure, indestructible being. That is where the symbolic triad, salt, sulfur, and mercury, comes into play, and where the method of solve et coagula reveals its deepest secret. If the stages of the great work describe the journey, then the triad of salt, sulfur, and mercury describes the tools, not the physical chemicals you can hold in your hand, but archetypes that point to the deepest structure of reality and of the self. In the alchemical lexicon, salt is the principle of fixity. It represents the body, the form, the stable foundation. It is what gives shape to spirit, your physical body, your habits, your earthly presence. Sulfur is the principle of combustion. It is the soul, the fiery essence of desire, passion, will, and individuality. It is the spark that animates the form, the inner flame that drives action. Mercury is the principle of fluidity. It represents the spirit, the subtle intelligence that flows between form and fire. It is the bridge, the messenger, the shapeshifter. To create the philosopher's stone is to bring these three into perfect harmony. Salt without sulfur is lifeless. Sulfur without salt is chaos. Mercury without balance becomes unstable, never settling into wholeness. The alchemist's art was to purify each, then unite them into a single, perfected substance, one that could not be separated or corrupted. This unification was expressed in the maxim solve et coagula, dissolve and recombine. First, the old patterns are dissolved, the body's inertia shaken, the soul's desires clarified, the spirit's pathways cleansed. Then, the purified elements are coagulated, bound together into a new form that is both stable and alive, grounded yet luminous. The imagery in alchemical texts, kings and queens marrying, suns and moons blending, serpents devouring themselves, are all metaphors for this union. The king, sulfur, and the queen, Mercury, come together in the vessel, salt, to produce the royal child, the stone. But here lies a subtle truth. This process is not linear. The alchemist moves back and forth between dissolution and recombinations many times. Each cycle refines the substance further. This is why the great work can take years or even a lifetime. And perhaps the most concealed layer of all is this. The metals being refined are not sitting in a furnace. They are you. Your rigidities are the coarse salt. Your untamed passions are the raw sulfur. Your scattered attention is the volatile mercury. The work is to purify your body until it serves spirit without resistance, to refine your desires until they align with truth, and to discipline your mind until it moves freely without distortion. When the triad is harmonized, something extraordinary happens. Consciousness becomes self-sustaining. Like gold, it no longer rusts or decays. Challenges may come, but they cannot corrupt the essence. You have become, in a very real sense, the stone itself, an incorruptible presence that radiates stability, wisdom, and transformative influence wherever you go. And yet, knowing this, the question remains, how can the seeker of today, without a medieval laboratory, without a shelf of obscure manuscripts, actually perform this work? In the next section, we will translate these symbols into practical methods you can begin using now to start crafting your own stone from the raw materials of your life. If the philosopher's stone is not a literal object, but a perfected state of being, then your life itself is the laboratory, and you are both the experiment and the experimenter. You do not need alembics and crucibles. You need attention, discipline, and a willingness to confront what is impure within you so it can be transformed. Here is how you can begin the work. 1. Begin with observation. The Negrado Journal. Set aside 10 to 15 minutes each night to write down moments when you felt heavy during the day. Anger, fear, jealousy, lethargy. Do not judge, simply record. This is the blackening stage in miniature, bringing the shadow into view. Over time, patterns will emerge. You are identifying your base metals. 2. Purify through breath. The albedo cleansing. Each morning, practice a simple breath cycle. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Imagine with each exhale that stagnant energy is leaving your body. This steadies the salt body and begins to quiet the noise in Mercury mind, preparing the vessel for higher work. 3. Align desire with purpose. Sulfur's refinement. Write one sentence that defines the kind of person you wish to become. Not what you want to achieve, but what you want to be. Each day, choose one action that aligns with this identity. This purifies sulfur, turning scattered desires into a steady flame that serves your higher aim. 4. Unite the triad. Solve et coagula in practice. At the end of each week, review your journal and breath practice together. Notice how your body, emotions, and mind responded. Identify one thing to dissolve. Dissolve a habit, a thought, a reactive pattern, and one thing to coagulate. A practice, a new perspective, a supportive habit. Repeat weekly. Protect and contain the work. The hermetic seal. Choose a quiet space for your inner work. A corner of a room, a chair, even a symbolic item like a candle. Every time you enter that space, let it signal to your subconscious. This is where the work happens. Just as the alchemist sealed the vessel, you seal your attention from distraction. 6. Embrace cycles, not endpoints. Do not expect transformation to be a straight line. You will return to Negredo many times. Each cycle is not failure. It is refinement. Like metal in a furnace, every return to the fire burns away more of what does not belong. With consistent practice, you will notice subtle changes, a steadier presence in difficult moments, an intuitive sense of timing, a glow of energy that others can feel. These are signs that the inner gold is crystallizing. Remember, the stone is not found. It is made, and you are making it in every moment. You choose truth over illusion, courage over fear, and love over resentment. In the final section, we will weave these ideas together and leave you with a challenge, one that can turn your next breath, your next thought, into a step toward the stone itself. The Philosopher's Stone is more than a legend of alchemy. It is the mirror of your own becoming. For centuries, seekers in temples, monasteries, and hidden laboratories devoted their lives to this mystery, only to discover that the greatest transmutation was not lead into gold, but ignorance into understanding, fear into courage, and mortality into a touch of the eternal. You have now seen the stone from many angles, the rich tapestry of history that carried it through Egypt, Greece, and the medieval world. The symbolic stages of Negredo, Albedo, Citrinitas, and Rubedo. The triad of salt, sulfur, and mercury. The maxim of solve et coagula. And, most importantly, the ways these symbols can become living practices in your own life. The stone is not in a hidden vault, waiting for you to find it. It is in the furnace of your own choices. Each moment you observe without judgment, you purify the salt. Each time you act from your deepest values, you refine the sulfur. Each breath of awareness stabilizes the mercury. Slowly, invisibly, the three unite. And when they do, you will notice it not because gold appears in your hands, but because gold appears in your being. If you take one thing from this journey, let it be this. The work is not something you will do one day. It is already happening. Every challenge is a crucible. Every relationship is a mirror. Every breath is a chance to choose the higher path. The stone is shaped in small, persistent acts until one day you realize you are carrying it everywhere you go. So as you step away from this video, I leave you with a question. The same question the old alchemists posed to themselves each morning. What in me today is lead, and what can I do to make it gold? Begin there, and the great work begins in earnest.